Methods of handling risks. The primary risk handling alternatives are 1. Avoidance, 2. Control, 3. Retention, 4. Transfer, 5. Insurance. Avoidance is a perfect device for handling risks. It means one does not acquire the risk to begin with and hence would not be subject to the risk. For risks covered by employee benefits, it is almost impossible to use the avoidance technique. How does one avoid the risk of death or illness? The point is that one is unable to avoid some risks. Attention then must be focused on other alternatives. Control, which is a mechanism by which one attempts either to prevent or reduce the probability of a loss taking place, or to reduce the severity of the loss after it has taken place. When it relates to employee benefits, any procedure used to reduce or prevent accidents, illnesses, or premature death would help in lowering the cost of most benefit plans. For employers to adopt accident prevention programs, wellness programs, a smoke-free environment at work, and other programs with the intent of lowering workers' compensation and other employee benefits costs, as well as improving employees' health and wellness, it is not unusual for them to do that. Retention, which means that the risk is assumed and paid for by the person suffering the loss. Assumption or retention can be used with losses that are small in terms of their financial impact on a person or company. One has to be careful with retention in that it should be used only with the types of losses that will not cause a financial disaster. Retaining or assuming risks with high severity potential can result in financial catastrophe. Retention can be a useful tool in handling employee benefits plans. Another use of retention can be found in the administration of benefit plans. Employees can take over many of the administrative duties of the insurance company. Payroll deduction, claims administration, answering questions from plan members, and filling out forms sometimes can be done more efficiently by the insured than the insurance company. And by carrying out these functions itself, an employer may be able to lower its direct dollar outlay. However, this form of retention should be examined carefully before being adopted because the administrative burden and other negative factors may outweigh any potential savings. Transfer, which is a concept in which one switches or shifts the financial burden of risk to another party. There are two forms of transfer that are usually recognized. One is insurance, and 2 is non-insurance transfers. An example of a transfer would be a landlord requiring the tenant to pay the security deposit up front. The security deposit is for potential damage to the premises. This will be, again, a form of transfer. The landlord would be transferring his or her possible loss to the tenant. Another example would involve the travel agent who is advising a traveler that we don't want to book this trip for you because there's all this negative things happening in the country that you want to go to. If the traveler insists on going, then the travel agency will have them fill out a waiver, which is separating the travel agency from any liability or any risk if something does go bad when the traveler is in the other country. Because it's like, hey, we told you not to go, but you wanted to go anyway. Employee benefit plans use transfer extensively, but it usually is in the form of insurance contracts. Non-insurance transfers typically do not serve as risk handling mechanisms in benefit plans. Insurance, which is a common method of financing benefit plans. From the standpoint of employee benefits plans, insurance would be a mechanism in which the insured, either the employer or the employee, would pay money, which is called the premiums, into a fund. The fund is the insurance company. Upon the occurrence of a loss, reimbursement would be provided to the person suffering the loss. Thus, the risk has been reduced or eliminated for the insured, and all the individuals who paid into the fund share the resulting loss. Before continuing with the discussion of insurance, it is important to clarify the differences between insurance and gambling. First, insurance is a mechanism for handling an existing risk, whereas gambling creates a risk one did not previously exist. Second, the risk created by gambling is a speculative risk, whereas insurance deals with pure risks. And speculative risks are where there's a possibility of a gain, whereas pure risk is either the loss is going to happen or it's not going to happen. Third, gambling involves a gain for one party, the winner, at the expense of another, the loser, whereas insurance is based on a mutual sharing of any losses that occur. Fourth, the loser in a gambling transaction remains in that negative situation, whereas an insured who suffers a loss is financially restored in whole or in part to his or her original situation. The use of insurance to make the victim of losses whole reflects the principle of indemnification, on which insurance is structured. An insured is indemnified if a covered loss occurs. That is, he or she is placed somewhat in the same situation that existed prior to the loss. Examples would be reimbursement for damaged property or medical bills, disability income, and the like. Definition of insurance per the sake of GBA 1. Insurance is the pooling of fortuitous losses by transfer of such risks to insurers who agree to indemnify insureds for such losses or to render services connected with the risk.